Good morning from sunny Dallas, summery Dallas here. I'm talking with a very special guest straight from Spain, Andrés Romero Arcas. Am I saying that somewhat right?
That's almost perfect.
I
Yeah.
was I was happy it didn't have the in there because that would be difficult for me to pronounce in Spanish. I'm always struggling with that particular sound. Andres, you work as an engineer in the localization industry. You have a technical background. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience?
Well, in fact, I have a translation background. I've I've studied translation at university, but very soon after I've been specializing since then in the most technical aspects, in the technology regarding the translation and localization industry, like tools, and and soon become well, I started translating for a few months, but after the after university, but I became a localization engineer very soon after, and I've been working very close to technology in general terms in the industry for a decade now, and on right now I'm more specialized in machine translation and generative AI, and currently working very close to those topics, those yeah very hot topics right now, and especially working with the automatic quality estimation and automatic post editing projects at Acolad right now. And besides that, I work as an instructor for some translation courses with translators mostly, and that's what I do. And also try to
I've
post
been
in
looking.
LinkedIn and provide value.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this conversation a lot because and I do a lot of technical interviews, but this one is going to go beyond the surface a little bit, and I love to geek out with somebody that really knows his stuff. So I'm going to put your feet to the fire. Get ready. I'm interested in finding out all kinds of things about engineering and generative AI engineering in particular with you. Uh, let's uh, let's dive into the first topic right away. I wanted to talk to you about machine translation and engineering language understanding in the age of generative AI a little bit, and explore the shift from rule-based and statistical MT towards generative systems. How do you define meaning preservation in the context of MT and LLMs?
Well, meaning preservation uh, is a main concept uh, in the industry, of course, from the backgrounds, as it defines everything. I would say it's about maintaining all the message, the intent, the cultural references, and from the source text into the target text or the translation, so that it works in the same way as the intended original message. So now, as machine translation systems and generative AI systems cannot do that always, let's say, uh, right now, linguists and us in the industry are still relevant to achieve that meaning preservation, of course. And this is really linked, I would say, to the concept of quality, to the standard concept of quality, the one we study in the degree, in the career, in the studies. And now we are seeing more and more machine sounding translations, texts, and that those are acceptable now more than before. And that's something that has evolved with the evolution of course of the technologies,
Yeah.
and now it is more about the balance of cost with these technologies, the use of these technologies, uh, quality, because maybe it's not always necessary to keep all those nuances for make a text work. And also, yeah, the performance of the text.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What are the main linguistic challenges you have when you're adapting automated systems to specific domains?
In the case of NMT systems, neural machine translation systems, they offer more translation more close to the original text, um, more literal translations compared to LLMs. And what they struggle most about is terminology. They struggle the most with terminology. And for solving this issue, you have different procedures, but the most common one I would say right now with the general or the generic public providers of machine translation is terminology injection. That consists of course, uploading a prepared glossary to the provider. And at the moment of translating, at the time of inference, the model, if it identifies a term that is in the glossary, it would decide if it uses the term in the target content, depending on how it works, the technology works. It depends on the provider that functioning, and it will apply it or not, and it will adapt it to the plural forms, to the plural forms and the inflections, sorry, as well. And yeah, this is a very interesting way of solving this issue. Of course, you can fine tune or train a machine translation NMT, neural machine translation engine. For that, you need data, and the more data, the better, but also the more quality data, the more structured and quality data in the sense good translations, the better, of course. It's not only about pulling a lot of data to the model and use that data to achieve good results. So with a trained engine, you achieve as well a good quality in the translation of terms as long as you have included them in the training corpora, of course.
Yeah. Nowadays, there's a lot of people that are switching to generative AI run systems. You have a background in NMT. What's the correct balance with employing LLMs versus NMT? In which case is one preferred over the other? And uh, is are there still case scenarios in which you feel that NMT is performing better than large language models?
Well, NMT, as mentioned before, provides more close to the original translations, more accurate translations in this sense. And and LLMs on their side, they provide more fluent, more natural sounding translations, human-like translations. I mean, sounding like humans translations. And for those reasons, you need to understand these differences, and you can decide, and you can know whether to use one technology or the other for specific domains. And in the case of when you need, let's say, a more accurate output, and there is a risk of having an issue, a legal issue, if a mistranslation happens, or a malfunctioning in the use of a device, for example, then NMT is more suitable for this kind of texts, technical, medical, legal domains. And on the other side, LLMs are performing better for marketing, copywriting, transcreation texts, as they are more fluent, more, yeah, they sound almost like human sometimes. And that is also the risk we have with LLMs, because as they sound almost like humans sometimes, the translations seem to be good, but if you analyze it in depth, there are some nuances that are not there. So those are not correct. The translation is not correct.
Yeah, would you be an advocate of using a combination of LLMs and NMT in certain cases? Is there an appropriate scenario where maybe you run a text through an NMT engine and then have it evaluated by an AI agent and check for certain fluency issues and maybe make the text better? Would that be an approach that you think is suitable for certain case scenarios?
Yeah, I think it could be really interesting to think already about agentic systems and defining subtasks for the best suitable technology for the specific domain, the specific type of text, the specific client. So adopting the or integrating the necessary technology and applying it for the specific need you have, and to get the most of it and the best results for your use case. So yeah, for me, we can apply this to, yeah, to your example, or yeah, even you can get the translations. You can pre-translate with NMT systems and post edit with an LLM, and then also use another LLM for the quality assurance. And that would be a very, very good scenario to get the most of the technologies, I would say.
Yeah. Are there particular language pairs or domains where generative systems fall short on understanding that you would caution people about?
Yeah, as mentioned before, I would be very cautious about using LLMs with medical, legal, technical texts when there is a risk of hallucination. As with LLMs, still we have those risks, although they have been improved. You can never be 100% sure, and you need more predictable, predictable outputs in this kind of texts. So you should choose, in my opinion, for the moment, NMT systems, specialized or trained NMT systems to the domain.
Yeah, that's very interesting. One of the biggest challenges for any automated translation system has been over the years context and making sure that there's appropriate context for the source text in order to be able to get translated properly. Um, how do you work around those limitations at Acolad? Do you have a particular system that you think is working well?
Yeah, well, it depends on context.
For the
Everything,
scenario, yeah, there's
yeah.
probably lots of scenarios, but give us a couple of use cases. I'd love to find out what your general vision is on that.
It was like the joke in the industry with translators that it depends on context, and yeah, and in fact, context is, I would say, one of the most relevant pieces of information needed right now for making the systems work. So you can approach this using the LLM context window, for example, that are huge now in comparison to a few months ago. And for a specific, of course, for specific LLMs that are the main ones, not all the LLMs. But well, the size is reasonable now. You can include many text already. But it is not only about including text by the sake of including context. it is also relevant the content you choose to include and how you structure the content to be included. That is very relevant. So you need to prepare how you include the content in the context window for the LLM to get the best results. For that, you can use some vectorization and summarization techniques, for example, to include the most relevant content in there. Also, a mechanism called, well, it's related to attention. It's called hierarchical attention. It is about identifying the most relevant pieces of text in sentences, paragraphs, and in the whole document, and then you get the most relevant meaning in that context and not everything. So those are two ways of dealing with context in the prompting, let's say, in the prompting environment. You of course can decide to use RAG, retrieval augmented generation, to provide the relevant chunks of information after previous embedding and vectorization of the information. And of course, you can decide if nothing of this works for you to fine-tune an LLM, although this is more difficult in some way compared to an empty systems, as you need to provide the data in a specific format, and also it is more expensive. It depends on the steps. The pricing increases with the steps, with the epochs finished during the training. So those are some constraints about the use of fine-tuning in LLMs. Although if you work properly on a small data set with, as mentioned before, the relevant content you want the LLM to bear in mind, and in a structured way, you will get good results, and in an affordable way.
Yeah, that's maybe the knock on knowledge graphs a little bit, that they're expensive to implement. What's your vision on that for the future of your operation? Are you much more inclined to use vectorization, or do you think that there's certain cases in which knowledge graphs are more preferable? What can you tell us about that?
I think knowledge graphs is going to be the future. I cannot tell you what I think in detail, as I haven't worked with them in right now at the moment. But for sure, it makes sense. There will be implemented in the workflows, as long as they can be, of course, integrated properly in the workflows. The solution can be escalated and is affordable or cost efficient somehow.
Yeah. Where do you see humans fitting in this loop and in your strategies to assess or enhance semantic accuracy? What's your vision on that?
Yeah, humans or linguists here are essential, I would say, for improving the quality of the systems. Either if it is a machine translation, neural machine translation system, or a generative AI system, the linguistic quality assurance is very relevant for getting the appropriate feedback, the right feedback for us or for technical teams to understand where to put the focus on, to try to improve the systems, to make decisions on the next steps, the most suitable steps or reasonable steps to try to improve the performing of the system according to that feedback. And also you can, for example, provide some samples of text to the linguists when you have a source text and several machine translation options, and the linguists have to choose the most suitable one, and maybe the ones you have provided are not are a bit of ambiguate. Sorry, and they are not clear. Sorry, you can ambiguous.
Invigorate. Yeah, yeah. No, it's.
Ambigu-
I wanted to help you
yeah.
along. Sorry.
No, perfect. It's perfect. Yeah, and you do that. You make the linguist choice the one that is going to be used for rewarding the LLM, and that the LLM can learn from that choice, and then it has that flavor, that that knowledge in future inferences, uh, thanks to that.
Yeah. The tech stack, I think, is getting more complicated or more complex. Not maybe not complicated, but it's getting more complex as localization becomes more automated. How do you see the future? Do you see a future in which there is an integration of machine translation and generative AI working together, or do you see generative AI more taking over the stack as we go along? What's your opinion about that?
Well, I know now many of the systems, I mean, TMSs, CAT tools are trying to integrate LLMs, of course, in the workflows now, and also all the companies. Uh, so both systems can be used, and in my opinion, they should be used as we have explained before regarding the specific use case, and depending on the type of text, language pair, it depends on a more in a deeper analysis you made beforehand, and those the systems will be available and will be usable depending on that, on those specific scenarios. You will be able to combine them. I mean, for example, now with machine translation quality estimation and automatic post editing, you have the raw machine translation output, you get an evaluation, and afterwards the LLM, depending on that evaluation, will improve or try to improve the output of the raw machine translation. So there are several ways to combine these systems, and for in the future, I foresee that LLMs will prevail, but I think that future won't come soon, or as soon as many expect, because I think it is needed to have the correct or the suitable tech stack based on a document based environment, and not a segment based environment like we have now. And that could mean the disappearance of the of the translation memories, maybe.
Yeah.
that could that could mean yeah, working in a total different way. I can think about an interface, because I think that that's a very important point. An interface where you have for example, for a quality assurance solution run by an LLM, of course, in this case, you have the whole document there, and visually you will be able to identify where the LLM did the changes, and you will be able to correct them. I don't know how will be the design, but it will be the idea to have visually spotted where the LLM made the edits, to go directly to that specific part of the text, and not consuming too much time reading everything.
Yeah. There's a lot of changes in the tech stack. There's some changes too for the more technical people involved in the organization. What are you doing as far as prompt engineering and staying up to date there? Are you taking specific courses? Do you think there's value for localization engineers to get better versed in that domain? And what would your recommendations be in that regard?
Yeah, I'm currently prompt engineering almost every day. So I have tried to learn by experience and, of course, taking some courses. I've taken a lot. Maybe it's not that necessary to take those many courses. It's more important to get your hands dirty and you to be able to understand what is the logic behind an LLM, how it works, how if you write the instructions in this way, what output you get. And when you start understanding that logic, then you can be a very good prompt engineer, or you can obtain very good outputs from the LLMs. And my advice or my recommendations for yeah for localization engineers is that they should go in this way, because at the end I think the roles will merge, many roles will merge, and you will need to know generative AI for sure to provide solutions in the engineering aspect, in the localization engineering aspect as well. Yeah.
It's almost like when I interact with large language models, it's almost like I'm getting to know the personality of the person and how they will react. It's not unlike if you would have an assistant, and that assistant would be from a particular culture. You'd have to get to know that person as well and see what their peculiarities are, so to speak. I heard you say at the beginning of our conversation that you had some courses out with Translate Stars. What can you tell us about that? What are you teaching people at Translate Stars?
Yeah, I'm talking and teaching about these topics, indeed,
Yeah.
about machine translation, engine training, focusing more on NMT systems, machine translation quality evaluation of these systems, and to be able to compare and what the metrics, the most popular metrics are, how to perform human evaluation, also about the generative systems, the possibilities we have with those systems, uh, how to prompt, how to use RAG, or when it is interesting to use RAG, and also fine tuning, and then how to build hands-on solutions for personal use, and yeah, like assistants, for example, and also some use cases that could be specific for companies as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any? There's a lot of talk nowadays about not just RAG, but also MCP. Do you have any opinion about the future of MCP solutions for the localization industry?
Well, I'm not very into MCP for the moment, but I could
Yeah.
tell you. Uh, yeah, I envision, like we've talked about before, the agentic workflows or the agentic systems. Those would be run from a screen that you can maybe tell, if you're a project manager, create a project for these files, and you upload the files from English into Spanish for this specific client, and you will get the whole workflow, because that system would understand uh, the subsequent tasks or subtasks to be performed. Maybe NMT, AI post editing, and AI quality assurance, because it is a AI and AI end-to-end workflow, and the client prefers a fast time to market, and not cares that much about quality, for example. So I think that would be feasible in the future. For me, it could be awesome to have something like that.
Yeah.
That's an example for PMs, but yeah.
Yeah, what's the most exciting project you're working on internally right now that you're most excited about for the future for automation?
Well, if I'm honest with you, I'm mostly focused now on machine translation quality estimation and automatic post editing.
Yeah,
So I am not working in another interesting project I could tell you, but I think the quality assurance uh, solution has to be developed sooner or later, and this traditional approach with this traditional technology of the rule-based algorithm with many false positives that has to be changed sooner or later. And I think, yeah, that will come, and it will be a really interesting use case for me to work on. I could tell you about maybe a solution we we have in place now. We have live for a client
yeah,
that is about terminology. As we've mentioned before, terminology is a pain point for machine translation in general, specifically also neural machine translation systems and NMT systems. So imagine that you have a client that needs in less than 24 hours very different texts coming from one day to another, not related or almost not related, and for many language pairs. Okay, and for that, of course, have, as they are preferring to have a really fast time to market, they want an end-to-end machine translation workflow. So yeah, we implemented that workflow, but we are working on improving in time that workflow. And a solution we implemented was about terminology, but not about terminology injection, as I explained before, because that solution is specifically applied to a glossary that is consistent, that is the same glossary for all the projects. But in this case, the contents are different. The contents is not the same or not related, I mean. So you need the possibility of creating dynamic glossaries that are project dependent and not fixed glossaries. So we use an LLM for extracting the terms, the relevant terms, according to specific instructions. And those are translated or left untranslated according to different instructions as well, agreed, of course, with the client. And those are injected in the target translation, raw machine translation output where relevant. And yeah, we have improved by a 25% the
mm,
quality in terminology, if I'm not wrong. Maybe I'm wrong with the number, but around that.
yeah. That's very interesting. Maybe one parting question before we wrap up the interview. What advice would you give linguists or people working in localization who want to move into the AI development side of the field? What would be your best advice?
Well, my advice would be for everyone in the industry first, maybe translators, focusing on translators, okay, that they start using these generative AI, these LLMs in their daily lives, in their daily work, trying to understand how they work and thinking of ways of improving their jobs, their work to be more efficient with LLMs, because they are very useful tools that could be used, for example, for documenting about a topic that the translator is going to translate, for building glossaries, extraction of terminology, for quality assurance, for giving you alternative translations or suggestions. Yeah, and there are many possibilities you can think about in your daily work, and you can get very interesting solutions for that. My advice would be, um, yeah, go to the basics first if you want to move to a more technical or AI related role, or to get more knowledge about it. Go to the basics, to the grounds first. Do not get overwhelmed by all the new updates that we have, mm, one week after another almost. And focus on what is relevant on the grounds first, about machine learning, natural language processing, um, generative AI, of course, and maybe also data science a bit, but focus more on Python than data science. Data
Yeah.
science. Python is really interesting, and not that difficult to learn. And once you have the basics, you can, of course, continue learning with different courses. There are many online. I can advise people if they ping me, no problem. There are plenty of them, but the most important point is to get the hands dirty as soon as possible, and trying to provide solutions to solve problems with
Yeah.
the technology, to understand how to use the technologies.
And maybe we can send them to your courses as well at Translistars to come learn something more there. That's an opportunity as well. Andres, fascinating. Thank you so very much for spending some time with us today. And I wish you the best of luck at Acolad in the future. We'll keep tabs on you and catch up with you in the not too distant future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Stefan, for this conversation, for having me here. Thank you very much.